Are you disposing of waste from your latest project? Well, you could be paying a hefty tax without even realizing it. In this guide, put together with the experts at My Tax Accountant, we are breaking down absolutely everything you need to know about the UK's landfill tax.
Yep, you heard that right. We're talking about a tax bill of over £126 for every single ton of standard waste you send to a landfill. So if you're a builder, a contractor, let's say you're Dave running a small firm in London, or really any business owner producing waste, this is something you absolutely have to know about. It's a huge operational cost that can catch you by surprise and seriously dent your project's profit. But hey, don't worry. As promised, the experts at My Tax Accountant are here to walk us through it all. With their incredible knowledge of UK tax law, they'll help us figure out what this tax is, who it really affects, and, most importantly, how you can manage it properly so you're compliant and not paying a single penny more than you need to. So here's the plan. We'll kick things off with what landfill tax actually is. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the different rates and materials. After that, we'll walk through getting registered with HMRC, explain how to file your return, and finally, we'll cover the common mistakes and penalties to help you avoid any expensive headaches. Right, let's dive into our first section. So, what on earth is landfill tax?
At its core, it's an environmental tax. The government brought it in based on a really simple idea: the polluter pays. The whole goal is to make landfill a less attractive, more expensive choice for getting rid of waste. By slapping a big cost on burying rubbish, the tax gives businesses a real push to think greener, to recycle, to compost, or just to find clever ways to produce less waste in the first place. It's a massive part of the UK's bigger plan to be more sustainable.
Now, the specific tax we're talking about today applies to authorized landfill sites in England and Northern Ireland. But it's really important to know that Scotland and Wales have their own versions. In Scotland, it's called the Scottish Landfill Tax, or SLFT, and in Wales, it's the Landfill Disposals Tax, LDT. So if your business operates all over the UK, just be aware that while the idea is the same, the exact rules and rates can change depending on where you are.
Okay, so we know what it is and why it's here. Let's get to the crucial part. How much is it actually going to cost you? This is where paying attention to the details can really pay off. So the system is split into two different levels: a standard rate, which covers most types of waste, and then a much cheaper, lower rate. This lower rate is just for specific, less polluting materials. Think of things like soil and rubble that don't really decompose or create nasty gases. The type of waste you're getting rid of is the single biggest thing that decides your tax bill.
I mean, just look at the difference on this slide. For the 2025 to 2026 tax year, the standard rate is a whopping £126.15 a ton. But the lower rate, it's just £4.05 per ton. That is a massive difference. Let's go back to our contractor, Dave. If he gets rid of 20 tons of mixed construction waste, his tax bill is over £2,500. But if that load was just pure separated soil and bricks, it would qualify for the lower rate, and the tax would be just £81. That's a saving of nearly £2,500 on one job alone.
So here it is, the golden question. How can your business make sure you're paying that £4 rate instead of the £126 rate? This is the pro tip that could save you a small fortune. Stay with me here, because getting this right could literally save your business thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of pounds every single year. To get that lower rate, your waste has to meet some pretty strict rules. First, it has to be on a specific government-approved list of materials. This includes things from nature, like rocks, soil, and clay from digging work. It also covers stuff like clean bricks, concrete, and tiles from a demolition job. But, and this is the absolute key, it must not be contaminated with anything else. If Dave's load of bricks also has bits of wood, some plastic sheeting, or old plasterboard mixed in, then boom, the entire load gets charged at the higher standard rate.
Okay, now that you understand the rates, the next step is getting registered with HMRC. And it's really important to know that this is the job of the person who operates the landfill site, not the business creating the waste. So, if you run a site that takes in waste, this isn't optional, it's the law.
The process itself is actually pretty straightforward. First things first, you need to have the right environmental permit for your site. Once you've got that, you just need to gather your business details, company number, VAT number, that sort of thing, along with your permit number. You do the registration online, filling in two forms, the LT1, which is the main application, and the LT1A, which gives details about your specific sites. Once HMRC gives it the green light, they'll send you your unique 15-digit landfill tax registration number. And here's a quick did you know for you. To keep everything transparent, HMRC actually publishes a public list of every single business registered for landfill tax. This means anyone can look up your business name and registration number. It's actually a good thing because it lets waste producers, like our mate Dave, check that the site they're using is totally legit and registered properly.
So, once you're registered, you need to file regular returns. Now, this isn't a one-and-done thing, and here's where the ongoing admin can trip people up. So let's get it right from the start.
The key bit of paperwork you need to know about is the landfill tax return, which is officially called Form LT100. This is what you use to tell HMRC exactly how much waste you've taken in over a set period. You have to break it down perfectly, showing the total weight at the standard rate and the total weight at the lower rate. The form then does the math and tells you the total tax you owe.
This whole process runs on a regular cycle, usually every quarter. So every 3 months, you'll add up all your disposals. Then you have until the last working day of the next month to file your LT100 return online and pay the full amount to HMRC. So for example, if your quarter ends on March 31st, your deadline is the last working day of April. Miss that deadline, even by a day, and you could be looking at penalties straight away. So staying on top of these dates is absolutely vital.
Okay, you're registered and you know how to file. But you've got to be careful because this is where mistakes can get seriously costly. Let's look at the traps you need to avoid.
One of the biggest no-nos is what's called an unauthorized disposal, which is basically a fancy term for fly tipping. If waste gets dumped anywhere that isn't a proper, permitted landfill site, it's not just an environmental crime. Landfill tax is automatically charged at the highest standard rate. And here's the really scary part. Anyone who knowingly caused or knowingly facilitated it can be held responsible for the tax bill. That could be the person who created the waste, the driver who transported it, or the owner of the land. It's huge.
And even simple admin mistakes can hit your wallet. HMRC needs you to keep perfect records, especially waste transfer notes for every single load. They're your proof for justifying the lower rate. If you fail to keep these records for the required 6 years, you could be facing a fixed penalty of £250 for each slip-up. It's a silly, avoidable cost that just comes down to bad paperwork.
But that 250 quid, that's nothing compared to this. If you send in a tax return that isn't accurate, say you've wrongly classified some ways to pay less tax, the penalty can be brutal. If HMRC thinks it was careless or deliberate, the penalty can be up to 100% of the tax you tried to avoid. That means you pay the tax you owed in the first place, plus a penalty of the exact same amount. It literally doubles your bill.
So, let's do a quick-fire recap. First, landfill tax is an environmental tax to make landfill expensive. Second, there are 2 massively different rates for 2025/26, a standard one at 126.15 pounds and a lower one at just 4.05 pounds per ton. Third, it's the site operators who have to register with HMRC. Fourth, they file a quarterly return called Form LT100. And finally, and this is probably the most important bit, the penalties for getting it wrong are severe, which means perfect record keeping is non-negotiable for everybody.
Okay, before we wrap up, a really important note. The information we've shared here is for general guidance. Tax rules can be complicated and they can change, so you shouldn't rely on this alone to make financial decisions. For advice that's tailored specifically to you and your business, you absolutely must speak to a professional tax expert.
Look, if all this feels like a bit of a headache, the team at My Tax Accountant is here to make it simple. For expert professional help with landfill tax or any of your other business accounting needs, get in touch with them directly. Their phone number is 0208-570-8531, and the email is info@mytaxaccountant.co.uk. You can also read their brilliant, detailed article on this very topic on their blog. And for more guides like this one, make sure you subscribe to their channel. Seriously, why risk the stress and the massive penalties when expert help is just a phone call away?